Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special episode of Uncanny Tracks. We are doing our third episode on Gotham City Sirens. This one is Volume 3, Strange Fruit. We are covering issues 14 through 19. And Matt, technically, what we're looking at here is a two-parter, and then it's a four-parter with a cliffhanger. But I thought it actually thematically worked if we just treated it as three two-parters. Did that wind up making sense to you?
No, Bob, it actually confused the hell out of me. No joke. So thanks for that.
I felt like issues 16 and 17 and then issues 18 and 19 felt thematically more similar to each other than the prior of later.
It's definitely a two-parter and a four-parter, folks. Bob's been under the weather.
I'm going to disagree.
When you read it as a trade,
Well, the other thing to say is initially I was thinking we might skip this because the opening two-parter is by Tony Bedard and Andres Aldo again. Guinaldo was the artist who took over for Gwillem Marsh last episode. The opening arc, forgettable, not bad by any means, but not essential to the coverage at all. I thought maybe we should just skip this. But then reading what Matt would describe as a four-parter by Peter Calloway, I'm not saying I thought these were amazing, but I thought they were really interesting, and they were doing a lot to build and wrap on stuff from the Dini run in general and the Dini run on Gotham City Sirens in particular. So it made it seem to me more interesting to cover. Did you kind of come to a similar point, or are you going to say, no, Bob, you're crazy?
and I enjoy these stories. I feel like they fit really well with what Dini had already started previously in the Siren series, and it carries the same interest for me. It didn't sway my interest at all.
Yeah, I haven't read the last trade yet, so I'll be very curious, to see what we think when we get to that last trade, which we will presumably cover next week. Have you ever heard of Peter Calloway? I never had. Apparently, he's basically written no comics other than this and a few one-off mans, but he did write a few episodes of Legion and a few episodes of Hulu's Cloak and Dagger.
He wrote some episodes for CBS's Under the Dome, and then American Gods.
Did you watch either Under the Dome or American Gods?
Here's the crazy thing. I read Under the Dome. That's one of the only Stephen King novels I've ever actually read. It's pretty good.
Interesting. That's what I've heard, that the show is terrible and that if you're interested, you should just read the book.
Exactly. I watched the first episode or two, and not a knock on the dude's writing, but it's not. There's a lot involved with that book that you're not going to get in this show. It's got the dude from Breaking Bad in it, the bald guy.
Yeah, Dean Norris.
Dean Norris.
I think it was his big follow-up to Breaking Bad.
The American Gods thing, I watched maybe the first two episodes, but I just couldn't get into it.
Did I ever complain to you about my experience with American Gods, the TV series?
No, but before you do that, one of my only experiences with it was I was sitting and watching it in my living room, and the first episode, some weird fat dude gets sucked into a vagina on screen. And of course, my wife walks in. There's just a big vagina sucking in a dude on the screen. I have to explain that.
Just watching some hentai, baby.
Just watching American Gods, no big deal. Neil Gaiman, book I read when I was younger. And yeah, this was part of the book, but that was in the book, but it was more imagery. It wasn't necessary to actually show me this thing, but anyway, it was there.
So my experience with American Gods, like you, I read it in high school, and I didn't think I remembered it very well because that was 20 years ago. But I was dog sitting for a friend, and he had Stars or something, or maybe it was just American Gods was on Amazon Prime at that point. But I was like, oh, I don't really remember the novel that well. I will try and watch the show. And I watched the first episode of American Gods, and damn, I actually do remember the novel really well. And this is just the first chapter of the novel.
It's not that complicated.
I was, you know what? I don't actually need to watch a whole season that's just a reconstruction of the novel. I think I'm good. Not that this is bad, but I don't need to watch it.
It was the book, but I just felt like I didn't need the actors and everything that were involved with it. It was just too. Sometimes I've actually read a book. I don't want to watch the show.
I have, but no great examples are coming to mind. I will say when we were kids, and I think this was our opinion, and I think this was also the cultural zeitgeist at the time, was to really, really want faithful adaptations. But I think as we've gotten older, and also I think the culture is a little bit more matured on this, I think we both want more interesting and weird adaptations rather than literal adaptations.
I don't know. I've already read the books. American Gods is, for what it wasn't a bad book.
Honestly, now that Neil Gaiman is canceled, we can say this. American Gods is not very good. It's not terrible, but it's certainly, setting aside Neil Gaiman as a monster, Neverwhere is a better novel than American Gods.
Yeah. Did you ever read Anansi Boys?
No, I never did. By the time it came out, I didn't feel like I remembered American Gods well enough to read Anansi Boys, and I didn't particularly want to reread American Gods.
It's fun.
A reviewer saying the problem with American Gods, like when I was a kid, and I think this is right, is that the protagonist in American Gods Shadow is intentionally a pretty open, bland guy, which makes sense given what Gaiman is doing with the novel, but also it makes him a little boring to read about.
Yeah, it's the gods he meets are meant to be the interesting characters. So let's move away though.
One more meta question before we get into the actual issues, Matt. So, in hindsight, I thought there was more Paul Dini on Gotham City Sirens after last week, and I was wrong. That was it. So, the hyena graveyard issue of Harley's hyenas eating all the neighborhood dogs. That's Paul Dini's swan song on Gotham City Sirens. Any thoughts on that?
That's cool. It's a graveyard.
You're more satisfied by that than I thought.
I've loved Dini's work. I've liked reading it. I'd like more of it, but I mean, we've read so much. I feel like a Dini connoisseur at this point.
All right, Matt. So we're going to take the first one that is inarguably a two-parter, and that's issues 14 and 15, Strange Fruit, parts 1 and 2. Like I said, Tony Bedard, DC fill-in writer, editor extraordinaire, and Andres Guinaldo on the art, taking over for Gwilym Marsh. What goes down in Strange Fruit, parts 1 and 2, Matt?
So, folks, when you hear this plot, you're going to understand why this was more of just a fill-in. Poison Ivy is seduced by an alien plant man who wants to turn the world into a giant forest.
Shocking. Matt, I've been reading a lot of 1950s Batman this week, and honestly, it a little bit gives me 1950s Silver Age Batman comics vibe.
I could see that totally. I felt like we were going to get a Dr. Woodrow scenario here.
Oh, yeah, the Florent. My favorite panel on this was page 364 in our omnibus, and it's a splash of the Robinson Park trees lifting up a carriage horse. I thought that was pretty cool.
That is cool, yeah. My favorite page was on 378, and it's where Ivy has been possessed, and she's got this purple look to her. This is supposed to be, I guess, her scary look, her bad guy.
Her alien possession.
Her alien possession look. Well, she approaches Harley, and nothing's going to come of this. She says, "Harley, out of respect for our friendship, I will see to it there are always fresh flowers on your grave." And then she blows her poison into Harley's face. And I'm just like, oh, yeah. It's just a great scene, just a great setup there. And then you find out that this was actually Ivy just protecting Harley because she's about to turn on her captor.
Well, I don't really guess there's anything else to say about the Strange Fruit fill-in.
Exactly, guys. I'm sorry. Tony Bedard, it's not a bad story, but it's kind of generic.
Issue number 16 and 17, beginning and ending again.
First half of the four-parter.
Matt, do you want to go issue by issue? Perhaps we'll go page by page.
I want to go panel by panel, Bob. Panel by panel.
Partner, what goes down?
It's 16 and 17, Bob. Talia convinces Zatanna to mind-wipe Selina's knowledge of Batman's secret identity, but discovers it was all a ruse to protect Damian's father. I got a slight dig on the art, Bob, and I don't know if you have your omnibus available, but on page 391, the drawing of Alfred here, the man looks Two-Face, like going out of control.
I'm seeing Damian.
It literally threw me for a loop. Is this a Clayface issue? So I kept going on it.
Well, it's interesting because the next panel down, his neck, it goes to a head-on shot instead of a profile shot. His neck looks much more normal. It's in a very tight dress shirt collar.
I was feeling bad for Alfred because I'm thinking he's choking to death or something with that.
Art on this page kind of reminds me of is Frank Quitely's art. I don't think Quitely's art is quite this sloppy, but it's got a grotesque cartoonishness that's pretty similar to Frank Quitely.
Damian looks strangely pale, and Hazel looks like a mole on his face. I just want to point that out because it made me think this is a Clayface issue.
Maybe it's the after effects from Ivy's alien planet. We go from grotesque, sickly men to cheesecake, and the cheesecake actually brings me to a realization in hindsight is the most obvious thing in the world, but it didn't click for me till this panel 16 issues into this series. But on page 394, we've got Harley, Ivy, Catwoman chilling. And on this page, I really realized, wait, Harley is Betty, Catwoman is Veronica, and I guess with the red hair, that makes Poison Ivy Archie Andrews.
Yeah, they're both fighting over her love and affection.
They really are. It's wild. But yeah, realizing that Harley and Catwoman are Betty and Veronica, it's the most obvious thing in the world, but I never picked up on it because I'm dumb.
I mean, if you think of it too, Ivy's the most
level-headed.
She's got a job. She's the one that brought them together in the sense. She's the one that already had the apartment and everything set up. So
unbounded optimism and energy of Harley, aka Betty. Then you've got the crass, cynical materialism of Catwoman, aka Veronica.
It's there, Bob, definitely.
You really play up a rivalry here between Zatanna and Poison Ivy, which is interesting because I don't remember Paul Dini really doing that in the prior stuff, but in a way it feels Peter Calloway is taking two of Dini's favorite characters and pitting them against each other. We have another villain show up on 421. It's a Shrike. Do you remember him?
I really didn't, honestly.
I think he's a Chuck Dixon.
Okay.
You've read Robin Year One, right?
Yeah.
He's in Robin Year One.
Okay.
Although to be honest, I don't remember the specifics of it all. And then I think he's in Dixon's Nightwing series at around the same time. And then I should remember this because I read it a couple of years ago, but I don't. But he's in the first Cassie Cain Girl series in the early months, apparently.
And all he is really just an assassin for the shadows, right?
Vaguely martial arts assassin is all.
In case you're wondering what he looks like, folks, he's got some swords, red and yellow suit with a mask.
Very apt description. He's a bit the bronze tiger we have at home.
Timu Bronze Tiger, that's a good way to put it. That explains the Fang necklace.
Just speaking of things that Calloway is tying into, he really is doing a heavy sequel to that issue from last week or the week before where Talia and Catwoman both know Batman's secret identity, and Talia gives Catwoman a way to protect it, right? I was shocked that this was such a direct sequel to that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the whole point of it is that Talia knows Selina has a relationship with Bruce and wants to put an end to that. I like how they did take from that story and bring that over into this. It wasn't just a one-shot thing back then.
And we're also following up too, right? This is still post-identity crisis where in that terrible story it wipes a lot of people. And we saw some of the fallout from that in Paul Dini's detective run with how Batman and Zatanna's relationship is repairing from Zatanna mind wiping him.
Learned her lesson.
She obviously learned her lesson, Matt. She's never going to do that again. What was your favorite panel in this two-parter, Matt?
So on page 420, Bob, you got the cast dodging these stalactites falling from the ceiling when, I guess, Shrike does his thing. And they go boom, 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 and you can just see the stalactites falling onto Zatanna. She's, look out! And Harley does this jump through the stalactites for some reason, because she's crazy.
Matt, do you want me to ruin this page for you?
Go right ahead.
Have you considered the symbolism of these stalactites?
What are they? Is that what I'm supposed to get?
I'm not necessarily saying that's conscious, but it's there nonetheless.
They're just wieners falling on top of
our cheesecake heroine.
Yes.
Shall we move on to the second, or rather the third two-parter?
Sure, Bob.
Issues 18 and 19.
Tana offers to make Selina forget how she feels about Bruce, sparking rage in Harley.
Yeah, I should also say 18 is a fill-in art issue by Jeremy Huang instead of Guinaldo, who art on the rest of it.
So in the last issue, after invading Selina's mind, Harley realizes that Selina is technically better off without Bruce and decides that she actually asks her father, Zatara, the ghost, what she should do.
And Zatara gives her not very good advice.
That's why Zatara's a ghost.
If he gave better advice, maybe he'd still be alive. My favorite page or favorite panel from these two issues was we have this page where Ivy realizes that both of her gal pals would ditch her in a second to get with either Batman or the Joker. And I was, oh man, poor Ivy, poor Archie Andrews.
Yeah, I don't think that's true.
I think it is. Or at least maybe it won't be true for much longer, but I think it's true. It's true in this moment, and it's true in every issue leading up to this moment.
Yeah. Well, Bob, on page 441 on the next page, we've got Talia using her binoculars, but she's also stretching her leg. I just found that pose hilarious to me. If you caught it.
Thank you for drawing my attention.
She's got a Charlie horse or something going on there. She's trying to get out.
Hey, Matt, stretching is very important in a cheesecake.
And then on page 444, Bob, we are reminded about Dr. Light, and I guess they're just trying to justify why mind wiping is okay. I think that's DC's way of, look, guys, this is why we did it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like we said, we're following up to the Dini and the Bedard run on Gotham City Sirens. We're also following up Identity Crisis with this story. And then I think, although I haven't read this since it came out, but I think in some way we're also following up on like Talia's status quo after Resurrection of Ra's al Ghul. So this is a very continuity heavy little two-parter.
It really is. But Bob, my favorite panel though is towards the end. It's on page 459, and Zatanna, she goes like Emperor Palpatine electricity magic on Talia. Literally that, and she writes, she's in order to make this happen, she has to say energy arc backwards.
But it's Force Light.
Yeah, it's totally Force lightning.
And it's more Force Lightning, too, because Talia is going at her with a sword.
Yeah,
Really
the look.
Star
Yeah.
Wars vibes.
Although Talia does break Zatanna's nose, which I thought was mean.
Well, I think it's to make it harder for her.
Yeah, you can't say it.
Just can't say it as well and as swiftly with less air.
Right.
We a nice cliffhanger, so I am curious to see where this will go.
I know Joker's not going to die, Bob. They never kill the Joker, Bob. I don't think it's going to happen this time either.
Well, I mean, they kill the Joker, but they never kill the Joker.
Yeah, they never. You know what I mean, Bob. They never kill the Joker. I will say this, Bob. What did you think of the picture of Joker on 471?
470.
I get slight Jack Nicholson vibes.
I see it now. That's interesting.
I thought that was a very good drawing of Joker.
Matt, obviously you're right that they're never going to kill the Joker, but it is interesting that this is, I think, very not long before the New 52. So obviously it wouldn't have stuck if they the New 52, but it's maybe not inconceivable that they might like kill the Joker at the end of this to ride him out for 2 months to 6 months.
What makes me so sad, Bob, when you say New 52 came right out, that was close to after this? This is the Batman stuff I remember reading and loving. Like all this stuff is time period where you still had that continuity built up from the 90s up into the early aughts. And then you had Batman RIP, Batman Inc. starting up. And then I guess New 52 didn't reset it, but it tried to it just shifted to what they wanted to focus on.
It didn't reset it, but then it eventually did. And and I don't know, not to sound like a bitter continuity heavy fanboy, but I don't know, it's still real opaque to me. Like what is actually the history of the DC? I'm sure I could figure it out.
Bob, Barry Allen's got that figured out in the history of the DCU.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that Mark Waid and Barry Allen are currently answering all of my questions.
Don't worry, we'll get that done. But I'm just saying, I wish this just would have kept going without the New 52, because I think the stories here were just...
I'm not saying I like the New 52, because I certainly don't. But there is an argument to be made that although there was a lot of good stuff going on at the time, like Jeff Johns' Green Lantern, and obviously the Grant Morrison and really whipped. And I liked the new Krypton stuff in Superman. I'm in a minority on that. But the argument, though, for the new 52 would be basically everything else at DC sucked. And you'd had a series of stories, Identity Crisis first and foremost, but also the rise and fall of Arsenal, Justice League Cry for Justice, that were like so bad and so damaging that there was no way to recover. This would be the argument. You could also say the argument that if you hadn't have done a dramatic break, the New 52, the old DC universe would have just kept falling and kept declining at an even faster rate than it did fall and decline.
Yeah, and as far as Batman goes, they knew Batman was going to sell no matter what they do. So even if the Batman books were selling at the time, they still knew that like they keep selling. The Batman books still fly off the shelves no matter what they did. Because really, I feel like Batman keeps DC going. Batman and Superman, that's about it.
For sure. It sucks, but it's true. All right. Well, any other observations on Gotham City Sirens?
Not really, Bob. I think I've enjoyed this run. I think having an all-female cast has been cool.
Yeah, well, we should take a break, but we should do Birds of Prey at some point. And we'll probably do the finale next week, listeners, and then we need to read the newer Gotham City Sirens and make sure it's fine. The question is just, do we think it would make for good radio, right? Is always the question, which is not the same as, is it good? But we may cover the 2 new miniseries of Gotham City Sirens, or we may move on to something else. You'll just have to stay tuned to Uncanny Tricks and see. In the meantime, we appreciate you listening. Have a great night, everyone.
Thanks for listening.